right. All glories to Mother Rytasha, all glories to the religion of love, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the Supreme Lord. O God, please help us live out these teachings and be an example of love in the world. Jai. Okay, so if you have the print book or the PDF, we are starting at the bottom of page 26. And again, we're reading from A Spiritual Revolution. That'd be book number 2 in the big compilation book, or chapter 2. And the commentary today is going to be provided by Mother Rytasha herself. Mother Rytasha and I were working on a commentary book to the religion of love. And she did 3 of the books, and I, like a stenographer, just as fast as I could, typed up everything she said. And she asked me to finish the books myself before she left this world. But here we are at the Spiritual Revolution. And as we traveled, her fame spread throughout the land, and more people came, as many as 100,000 at a time, for she spoke to all, regardless of religion, saying, "This teaching is for everyone, as is all spiritual teaching." And the people who were sick in their hearts and at the hate in the world and the state of their lives loved her. But success is a dangerous thing, and her teaching was seen as a threat to all who would gain power and wealth through propagating ignorance, and they sought to destroy her. At a large meeting, she answered them, saying, "You critics charge me with preaching to Muslims. Others condemn me for mixing with Hindus. But I see neither Hindu nor Muslim. I see neither Christian nor Jew, neither black nor white, American nor Indian, neither man nor woman, only the beloved lovers of God. You who would carve up the world and the Word of God, know that differences are not divisions." And stopping, she pointed at a bird who soared overhead and asked, "Does that bird flying so high above us see lines along the earth dividing up the land? Did God make borders? No, man has made that, and with it, war. God gave his holy word that we might build a stairway to heaven, but man, dividing it, has used God's words to build instead a wall between his brothers. It is man who has made these false borders and boundaries, and it is man who must take them down." And some scoffed at her preaching, saying, "There is nothing new here. We've heard this before." And she answered them boldly, saying, "If you heard, then why moved you not? Why changed you not? Your listening is not hearing, your knowledge unrealized. You speak of fire, but you burn not." And the people were happy, for they knew these men and had suffered mightily at their hands. But not all were pleased, and one, hoping to trick her, asked, "Then which religion do you say is the best?" And she answered, "The one that gives you love of God." And his friend, a sly man, knowing it was against the law of that land to convert people, and thinking to trap her, asked, "Must I change my religion?" And she smiled at him, saying, "No, you must practice it." And that day at least, they were defeated. Oh, sorry, my foot fell asleep. Whoa. Whew. Sorry. And there gathered about her truly good people, who, following, wished to give their lives to God. And they asked for initiation, and in time it was given. So I can stop there real fast. Let me go back. Back to bottom of 26. Sorry, there's so much wind in the microphone. I hope you can hear me all right. And as we traveled, her fame spread throughout the land, and more people came, as many as 100,000 at a time. For she spoke to all, regardless of religion, saying, "This teaching is for everyone, as is all spiritual teaching." Again, and sorry for the background noise. There's a highway nearby. So this is an important point. Every time God has given this message into the world, what has happened is it has become sectarian. It has become us and them. Whereas God meant the message to be for all, for he sees everyone as his family. In contact with the material energy, most the teachings that have come have been hijacked and are no longer pure. So God again, in the religion of love, God is giving again the pure message and making it clear that the message of God is for everyone, that all are included, all religions, all peoples, for God leaves no one out. We are all included by God. And I'd like to add another comment, if I may. I was reading in the Quran the other day, a beautiful verse. It was saying that the true believers of the Lord, they accept all the prophets of God and reject none. I thought that was very beautiful. And the people who were sick in their hearts at the hate in the world and the state of their lives loved her. But success is a dangerous thing, and her teaching was seen as a threat to all who would gain power and wealth through propagating ignorance, and they sought to destroy her. Unfortunately, this is the way of the world. If you come to this path, be sure you will have trouble on some level. And it can start with people as close to you as your own family, your own friends. At a large meeting she answered them, saying, "You critics charge me with preaching to Muslims. Others condemn me for mixing with Hindus. But I see neither Hindu nor Muslim. I see neither Christian nor Jew, neither black nor white, American nor Indian, neither man nor woman, only the beloved lovers of God." So let us forget all these different definitions of who we are, and just realize our true identity as spiritual beings, beloved lovers of God. Whether we are Christians, Hindus, Jews, man or woman, for in this way does God see us. You weren't a Muslim when you were born. That little baby had no religion. This is something you have learned, that has been put upon you. But who you were at birth was a spiritual being, and God looks not at your religion, caste, or creed, but at your actions. And beyond your actions, into your intentions and your heart. You who would carve up the world and the word of God know that differences are not divisions. So we see many differences, and that just shows the variegatedness of God's creative power. And because there are differences, those differences are not meant to engender hate between us just because someone is different. And stopping, she pointed at a bird who soared overhead and asked, "Does that bird flying so high above us see lines along the earth dividing up the land? Did God make borders? No, man has made that, and with it war. God gave his holy word that we might build a stairway to heaven, but man, dividing it, has used God's words to build instead a wall between his brothers. We have come to the place where we are actually exploiting God to get our material pleasures, which has made us so unhappy. It is man who has made these false borders and boundaries, and it is man who must take them down. In the religion of love, we now have a new way of thinking without boundaries, without borders, appreciating the differences, but not making them walls between us. And some scoffed at her preaching, saying, "There is nothing new here. We have heard this before." Spiritual life is not fashionable. In fashion, every year you have to have something new. So God is not giving us anything new. It's not that we need anything new. It's that we have to go more deeply into what has been given. And she answered them boldly, saying, "If you heard, then why moved you not? Why changed you not? Your listening is not hearing, your knowledge unrealized. You speak of fire, but you burn not." So, people like the new. But in the religion of love there is nothing new. But it is true. And that truth will liberate you from your suffering, reunite you with the Lord, and bring you home to paradise. And the people were happy, for they knew these men had suffered mightily at their hands. When people start breaking the laws of God, they are broken, and then they begin breaking others. But not all were pleased, and one, hoping to trick her, asked, "Then which religion do you say is the best?" And she answered, "The one that gives you love of God." All religions, as given by God, give you love of God. But because of our conditions, our culture and background, we may be attracted to one particular one, and that is fine. And his friend, a sly man, knowing it was against the law of that land to convert people, and thinking to trap her, asked, "Must I change my religion?" And she smiled at him, saying, "No, you must practice it." And that day at least they were defeated. What we have found in our travels is that the people that give us the most trouble, asking why we didn't practice in their style, usually were people who didn't practice their religion themselves. And there gathered about her truly good people, who following wished to give their lives to God, and they asked for initiation, and in time it was given. I guess I'll keep reading. In a clearing surrounded by flowering trees, taking off her shawl, she washed the feet of the disciples, saying, "All religious practices, as enjoined by God, are as a cleansing of the dirt of ignorance. For already are you perfect, only covered by illusion." This initiation is not about a change of religion, of dress, or address, or name. It is about a change of the heart. Nor is it about joining an organization. For all organized religions, though they preach brotherhood, in reality separate brother from brother. For if God is our Father, we must be brother and sister, family to all. This initiation is a public proclamation that you are now souls surrendered unto God. And as she washed their feet, speaking the whole time, everywhere people were filled with emotion, and tears ran down their faces. And speaking to them, she said, "Give freely what was given freely to you. For spiritual knowledge is realized only in the giving. And do not worry about who will follow. A seed planted grows invisibly under the ground. Remember, you may plant the seed, but the fruit thereof belongs not to you, but to God. Judge not, for our knowledge can be but incomplete. Only God may know the heart of another man. But look instead for the flame of God's good in everyone, and fan that flame into a fire that will by its very nature burn away all impurities. For all man's actions come from love, or the need of it." In a clearing surrounded by flowering trees, taking off her shawl, she washed the feet of the disciples, saying, "All religious practices as enjoined by God are as a cleansing of the dirt of ignorance. For already are you perfect, only covered by illusion." The washing of the feet, though the feet may be dirty with material dirt, is also symbolic of the washing of the ignorance and the illusion that cause our suffering. This initiation is not about a change of religion, of dress or address or name. It is about a change of the heart. Nor is it about joining an organization, for all organized religions, though they preach brotherhood, in reality separate brother from brother. God does not see in a limited vision of man. God sees everyone as the family of God. And when man limits the vision of God to our particular group, sect, country, language, this is not the true realization of what God has given. For if God is our Father, we must be brother and sister, family to all. This initiation is a public proclamation that you are now souls surrendered unto God. It's actually a public proclamation that you have seriously entered the path to becoming a soul surrendered unto God. It says that you are willing. And also, initiation is not just about the disciples' willingness, but the willingness of the spiritual master to commit to that person, no matter how long or how difficult it is to come to God. And as she washed their feet, speaking the whole time, everywhere people were filled with emotion, and tears ran down their faces. When people have chance to see or to hear the truth of God, there is an inherent knowing, a remembrance of something so beautiful that people often become emotional. And speaking to them, she said, "Give freely what has been given freely to you. For spiritual knowledge is realized only in the giving. This is two parts here. Do not make a business. And that means in business trying to make money. Or even in the subtle things of appreciation or worship. Give freely with no expectation. So in material life, if we have something and we give it, we are less, or we have less. In the spiritual, it is by giving that we gain. And again, I caution you, don't give it to gain. There's a nice Hasidic story about a woman came to one of the rabbis, and she came because she was barren and couldn't have children, and she wanted him to bless her that she could have children. And he talked about the Baal Shem Tov and his own mother, who had gone to him and had asked the very thing of him to have a child. And she gave him a beautiful cape as a gift. And within a year I was born. And so the woman said, I will find the most beautiful cape and give it to you. And the rabbi said, but that won't work, because my mother didn't know this story. So all I'm saying to you is, we give this knowledge because it is pleasing to God. Not because we are expecting making followers or for people to thank us, or to get something for what we have given. And in that way do we make spiritual advancement. And do not worry about who will follow. A seed planted grows invisibly under the ground. This is difficult because we live in a world that is basically fruitive. Everyone does something to get something. And they expect it. They demand it. So we give, and we may never know what our giving has done. Because like the seed, you cannot see. If you keep digging up the seed to see if it is growing, you kill it. Remember, you may plant the seed, but the fruit thereof belongs not to you, but to God. You may give a great class, give out some books, some good knowledge that may help, but that's why we have this motto, live it, because you can't give anything that you aren't yourself. Give it, let go, and let God. Judge not, for our knowledge can be but incomplete. Only God may know the heart of another man. And God doesn't even judge us according to Scripture until we are dead. People can change. People can be redeemed. And that is our work, what God has sent us in the world to do. So, judging. We're not qualified to judge. Not only do we judge, but we make ourselves the executioner. We judge and condemn. Don't do that. You don't know. God will know. That's God's job, not our job. What is our job? But look instead for the flame of God's good in everyone and fan that flame into a fire. And how do you do that? You appreciate. You find something good and you appreciate it. And it can be the simplest thing. You tell someone, oh, I like your shirt. I like the way you said that. What a nice smile you have. Oh, you worked very hard on this project. In other words, people will not be perfect. Nobody's perfect. And it is very easy to find fault. finding fault destroys both the person you are telling to, who you find the fault in, and it destroys your own self. So if you find fault with somebody, and I'm not talking about right or wrong, they will resent you. What's that? Resent. Like despise you or not going to like you very much. Opposite of liking you. They will resent you. They will see you as an enemy, and they will close their ears to you. Sometimes it's just a tiny little spark that you can find of somebody. And appreciate it. Tell them and mean it. It has to be sincere. We're not talking about flattery here. That will by its very nature burn away all impurities. So by concentration on the good, it naturally will weaken the errors. By concentrating on the errors, that focus gives it strength. And they will begin judging you in the same way. For all man's actions come from love, or the need of it. There are two things that motivate us, basically. We're doing out of love, or we need some love. And we show our love by paying attention to anything that is good in them. And that uplifts and energizes people to do the good. Being criticized drains somebody and they sink. Okay. I don't know if I should read. Got a few more minutes. And as she spoke, the clearing was filled with a blue light, and around her head a halo of white light appeared, amazing all the people present. But she cautioned them, saying, "Many will come looking for miracles, for easy solutions. They wish to feel good, not be good. Miracles are for materialists. They are not spiritual. Any one of you here gathered may learn to walk on water, but for a few cents you can more easily cross over the water in a boat. If you serve God, He will give whatever is necessary for His service. Beware the seeking of powers, for that is not a spiritual path, but a material one, and leads not to, but away from God." And as she spoke, the clearing was filled with a blue light, and around her head a halo of white light appeared, amazing all the people present. But she cautioned them, saying, "Many will come looking for miracles, for easy solutions. They wish to feel good, not be good." This is very important, because out of being good is where you get the feeling good. Most people want to skip the being good and just have the feeling good. And this often becomes a trap, which leads them to suffering. Miracles are for materialists. They are not spiritual. Miracles are just the bending of the material energy to do things that seem impossible. Any one of you here gathered may learn to walk on water, but for a few cents you can more easily cross over the water in a boat. It's true, there are what are called powers that you can learn. In the East they are called siddhis, and one of them is you can learn to walk on water. And they take great austerity and time to achieve. You are better spent not in seeking these powers, but in serving God. If you serve God, He will give whatever is necessary for His service. And this is a very nice prayer. God, Please give me the ability and facility. One I often use. Mother Rytasha did pray that often, as we all did. Lord God, give us the ability and facility to serve you. Beware the seeking of powers, for that is not a spiritual path but a material one, and leads not to but away from God. I think that's probably a good time to stop. 1 second, let me stop this recording and restart it with my webcam. Okay. All right, does anyone have any questions related to the class?
Well, this question was kind of answered by the commentary, but I just find it more interesting, and I was wondering if you had more to say about it. You mentioned the rabbi, and how the lady was looking to get a son, and how the mother of the rabbi, she did something to get a son, right? She asked someone and gave him a cape. I was just wondering what's the meaning behind that, and what's the I guess what happens if you approach someone who's like a very spiritual person and ask them for something, you know? And I know you can ask for like spiritual things. I guess the main question is just what should you be asking for, and what it's not like what you shouldn't be asking for, but what stuff that if you ask for it won't really make a difference, it won't really help you, you know?
Okay. I don't think what you said was picked up in the recording, so I'll just reiterate what you said. You wanted to clarify more the story of the rabbi and the woman who wanted a child and the gift she gave, and what is the proper thing to ask of or to gift a spiritual personality? Was that pretty much sums it up? Okay, I'll assume it does. So
Yeah, and what sort of thing should you expect in return? Not expect, but you know, what sort of thing will you receive in return, and what should you be looking for? Because a lot of people look for stuff in return. So also alongside gifts, what's the quote unquote receive? You know?
right. Well, as Mother Rytasha's commentary was saying, this world is basically fruitive. Everybody does something to get something. It's always motivated for some material gain. Like this woman wanted a son. Now, to elaborate on that story, is that and this was a story about the Baal Shem Tov. So the Baal Shem Tov was the founder of the Hasidic order, which is a mystic branch of Judaism, and he was amazing. Baal Shem Tov actually means master of the holy name. He was an amazing personality. He would do cartwheels. He'd be in ecstatic trance, and he'd be so dancing and chanting names of God in the synagogue. Beautiful. So the story of, they said one woman came. She wanted to have children, and she gave a beautiful gift out of love, and she didn't know if she was actually going to get the child or not. She didn't know if it was actually going to work, but still out of love, she gave a gift, an offering to the rabbi. So yes, she had some material motive. She did want to have children, but she wasn't so sure it was actually going to work. But still, she gave the great gift, right? Now, the second woman, who hears the story, though, see that wouldn't work for now to give it, because now she's really expecting it. Now, because now if I offer this and I don't get it, then she's going to get upset, right? But now she's really expecting it. She's doing it. She's giving it under a condition that I get this. Whereas the first woman, whether she got it or not, she was happy to give that gift, out of love. But higher than that, higher than wanting to get any material benefit, the devotee of God is only praying that he can become again established in his natural state of love of God, and to serve God ceaselessly, with all his heart, with all his mind, with all his body. That's the desire of a devotee of God, is to experience that love of God, and to be again with God in the spiritual world. not anything of this world. And she explains that how you get there, how you actually gain in the spiritual, is when you give unconditionally, without expectation of reward or benefit. When you're giving out of love, not wanting anything back. Like a mother who loves her children. She raises her children. Whether they appreciate it or not, she's going to do her duty and raise her children with all the love that she possibly can. A good mother does. Whether it's appreciated, whether it's thanked, whether it's noticed or not, a good mother will love her children unconditionally. And that's that unconditional love in devotional service that will also help us make progress in spiritual life. I mean, yes, there is a goal in mind. The goal is to purify our consciousness, purify our heart, the reason why we do all this devotional service, hearing, chanting, remembering. But that's a spiritual goal. That's not a material one. Wanting to be a better person, wanting to do good in this world, wanting to help others, wanting to live more in love. I mean, yes, the byproduct of that is, of course, we suffer less because we give up a lot of the sources and causes of our suffering in spiritual life. Giving up our illusions about things which cause us to suffer. So yes, in the beginning, many come to spiritual life because they desire to be free from suffering. Everything I'm experiencing is so bad, so awful. I feel terrible, I'm sad, I'm lonely, I'm depressed, I'm angry, tired of corruption, I'm tired of lies, betrayal, I'm tired of all the awful nonsense in this world of suffering. And so that's how most people come to spiritual life, is usually after a time of great suffering. And they desire to be free from their suffering, and in that low point they surrender unto God. Now, you don't have to hit a low point in order to come to spiritual life, but usually when people are at a real low point, they're more apt to surrender unto the Lord. So suffering can be a good thing if it brings a man to God. But even still, wanting to free yourself from suffering, if you know in knowledge that the cause of all suffering is ignorance, our forgetfulness of our true spiritual nature, which keeps us in this world of suffering, then if you know that, then by following the process to purify yourself from all that ignorance and suffering, it is a spiritual process, because the means is spiritual and the ends is spiritual, because the means is chanting of the holy names, hearing the holy word of God and living it out, remembering the Lord, engaging in his service, associating with devotees, eating the Lord's remnants of food offered to him. The process is spiritual, and the goal, even yes, we do become free from our suffering, and we do, in time, the more we purify, we do experience transcendental happiness, this inner happiness, inner peace, one that isn't subjected to external factors or forces, a happiness that isn't shaken when the world quakes. So, what is a good thing to gift a spiritual personality? Well, in my experience, I saw a number of people would try to offer gifts to Mother Rytasha out of love, But she was very, very wary to accept gifts. She rarely did accept gifts, even money. Some people think that, anybody offering you money you'll accept, but even Mother Rytasha was careful to look at where the money's coming from, and she warned me once, she said sometimes there are strings attached with that giving. There's expectations with it. And if you don't fulfill those expectations that these people had in the giving, then they're going to resent you and you'll become their enemy. But then I've seen her accept a tiny little bracelet, little trinket I saw a woman made for her once. And she accepted that because it was made out of love and devotion. and was truly given without any desire for anything in return. No, because it was made with love. So the best gift that you can offer a spiritual personality is actually to render service unto the Lord. Nothing made Mother Rytasha happier than sharing this message of love with others. That pleased her the most. When she'd hear books went out, or classes were given, or programs were happening, mostly with the books going out, she was very, very pleased. And that's kind of how you please every single servant of God. By serving God. And serving a spiritual master is the same thing as serving God, because all the spiritual master do is serving God. So if you're serving them, you're just helping them in their service to God. So you're vicariously serving God through serving them. Which is non-different, because it's the same work, really. It's the exact same work. But the love is compounded, because it's not just love of God, it's also love of the devotees of God. Love gets sweeter. So, to ask of a spiritual personality for worldly blessings or for miracles. Many people came to Mother Rytasha too, asking for blessings and miracles. Oh, heal my disease, or oh, bless my marriage, or oh, help my son get a good career, oh, things like that, all the worldly stuff. And for the most part, Mother Rytasha tried to, just be nice and bless, but, her main service was to give spiritual knowledge, because she knows that all these mundane, material, temporary things, that even if they get these things, these people are not going to be satisfied, because they want the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So Mother Rytasha's greatest service, her greatest blessing that she always gave was knowledge to whoever would be able to hear it, at whatever level they could hear. Now, one coming to Mother Rytasha seeking help in their spiritual life, one wanting to come closer to God, she'd give you all the time of day. She would talk to you till it got late, until her disciples would say, you have to watch your health, Mother Rytasha. You need to take rest. And she'd be like, no, I'm fine. And then totally her body would just run on empty. And then, she ran on spiritual batteries, for reals. She definitely pushed her body to its utmost limit. She gave and gave and gave so much, and she never felt tired. But then the body would eventually have an objection, and she was often poor health because she'd overexert herself. But the best thing to ask of a spiritual personality or a spiritual master or a holy person is to ask for guidance, for help, for purification, for knowledge on the spiritual path, anything that will help you come closer to God. But of course, asking God for worldly things is better than relying on your own strength for worldly things, right? At least there's some devotion involved. At least there's some prayer, some remembrance. At least making of God one's order supplier is better than, negating the existence of God or being defiant to him. But still, we're not going to get much benefit from those levels of prayer. The purer our prayers become, the purer our chanting, the purer our intentions become, the more benefit we get in our hearts. When there's more love, involved, do we get greater results. And that's what Mother Rytasha would say about chanting. She said it's not the words in chanting or the way in chanting, it's the love in the chanting that determines the result. And another word for love you could say is attention, giving your undivided attention. And eventually, as you your mind becomes more clean and your heart, more clear, as you progress upon the path and you keep hearing, chanting, remembering, your intentions for why you do the spiritual practices and the service you do will start to evolve more and more. Before we come to spiritual life because we want to be free from suffering, right? Or we want to get some goal. I want to be enlightened. I want to experience bliss. I want to go to the spiritual world, We start off with those kind of desires. And eventually, as you keep purifying, keep chanting, eventually, as you keep growing in love by following the instructions of the spiritual master, by abiding by the scriptures, hearing, chanting, remembering, eventually you start doing everything not for what I get out of it, or what I can gain, or where I can be, or what I can become, but you start doing everything for simply the pleasure of the Lord, just to please Him. Having class right here, us sitting together, sharing these teachings, having questions and answers, discussing spiritual knowledge, this is pleasing to God. God is pleased when we gather. It says in the Bible, when two or more gather in my name, that is my church. So we are gathered together, an assembly of devotees, glorifying the Lord by sharing His message, His teachings, and trying to live out them. This is pleasing to God. My master's master, my Param Guru, there's a story where he was giving classes, lectures, at the center, and one morning no one showed up. But he still gave class. He still gave class because he wasn't doing it for the pleasure of who would attend, even though he wants to help everyone who would, of course, come. But he was giving class for the pleasure of God. So despite no audience, no worldly audience that we could see, the Lord was there in his heart, and he knew that the Lord was hearing. So for God's pleasure, he gave class. Doing everything for God's pleasure. This is how we purify our hearts. And we learn this by serving a spiritual master, because serving God's very difficult to do, because we don't have direct experience of God's approval or disapproval of what we're doing. I mean, well, maybe through karma we'll realize that later, right? But through serving a spiritual master, serving one of God's servants. See, it's hard from where we are in our current condition, our current contaminated state in this material world, to directly serve the Lord. But it's much easier to learn how to serve God by first serving one of God's angels. And every spiritual master is like an angel. And they're an angel in the flesh that we can actually see, touch, and hear. And the process of surrendering unto spiritual life, the initiation with the spiritual masters, is basically you surrender your life unto God and unto whatever the spiritual master instructs, and deciding to render any menial service to the Guru, simply for the pleasure of the spiritual master. And that includes anything from, engaging in your spiritual practices, preaching the books, cooking, cleaning, running errands for them, whatever is needed, just becoming a humble little servant of the servants of God. And doing it out of love, not out of obligation. See, non-devotees don't understand this. Non-devotees don't understand the mood, the love between a disciple and spiritual master. It's one of great love, immense love. The spiritual master acts only for the good of the disciple, and the disciple can't properly thank that master enough. Never. They can never do enough to thank the master for so mercifully helping them, so mercifully taking the time to give pure instructions from the Lord, to help us come home to the Lord. Oh my. So the disciple does everything they can to please the master. And when the master is pleased, the smile, the approval of the master can send the disciple into just ecstasy, into just feeling so much love and joy. I know from experience. Just seeing her smile, seeing that she was proud of service we rendered. Oh, that's all I needed. That's, oh my, that's more than I could ever hope for. And that fills my heart with so much love, that knowing my spiritual master is pleased. Because if the spiritual master is pleased, that means God is pleased. So the secret to success in spiritual life is actually pleasing the spiritual master. That's how you know if God's pleased with you. If his angels, his servants, his pure devotees are pleased with you. I hope that was a sufficient answer, brother. I know there was multi-levels to your question. Would you like me to elaborate further, or something more to ask?
Oh, no, that's good. Yeah, that makes sense. For me, I was just thinking, I mean, the best thing I would be asking for is just knowledge. And I imagine like a spiritual master or someone who's well known, they would usually be more than happy to direct someone towards the right knowledge to ease their suffering, not anything material per se, but the knowledge to get them out of their worries. And even if they might be material struggles, the solution might be spiritual to alleviate their material pain. And you mentioned that.
Yeah. Okay. Too bad the audio, I don't think, recorded what you said. Yeah. That if you come to a spiritual master and ask them good spiritual questions, oh, the master's already very pleased with you for your good inquiry. There's nothing better the spiritual master would want to do than to share this knowledge. That's why they come. That's what they're here for. And the spiritual master, and I've heard people ask questions to Mother Rytasha, and she didn't exactly answer the question that the person would ask, but she answered what the person needed to hear. And now that's spiritual master level stuff that I don't understand. their consciousness so high in the spiritual world. And if you ask a question that's not really beneficial to your spiritual life, the spiritual master might ignore that question and not answer it. Because I've seen Mother Rytasha also just not even give a question the time of day. She's like, it's like that. She would say something like, "How is that knowledge going to help you in your spiritual life? How is that going to help you come home to God?" And she would just disregard it and not give it the time of day. So spiritual master, a pure devotee of God, 24/7, they're trying to do the most good, do the most service, whatever is most pleasing to God, and give whatever's most beneficial as help to others. Not give the people what they want, but share what is needed, what can be heard. Now, unfortunately, very few have the ears to hear. And that's a shame that most can't hear these teachings. Most, their hearts aren't open enough to accept them. So, I've seen people meet Mother Rytasha, for example, and it's like just even that one meeting just changed their life. Because they understood, the kind of person she was, and tried to take advantage of the opportunity of being in the presence of an enlightened master and ask pertinent questions. But then we've been at restaurants. I'm thinking servers delivering a meal, or people that we have interaction with here and there. So many people met Mother Rytasha, but didn't take advantage of the opportunity to ask spiritual questions. And so their memory of her is, oh, she was just a super nice lady. Oh, she was wonderful. She was lovely. But they have no idea. They have no idea who she really was. And and what the real blessing is to be in the association of devotees of the Lord. You know, in the scriptures it says that one who travels to all these places of pilgrimage just to take a bath and get purified are no better than cows and asses. Because the purpose of going to holy places of pilgrimage is to associate with holy people, so that you can inquire and receive true spiritual knowledge from realized sources. That's the reason to travel to holy places, actually. Not just to take a picture or take a bath. Yeah. I just think, oh my gosh, so many people who met Mother Rytasha, but they didn't take advantage of the opportunity. You know, most don't have the ears to hear. It's a shame. Anyways, did you have a question?
Yes. Mother Rytasha said that give freely give the spiritual knowledge to please God, but if while we are giving the spiritual knowledge to others and we feel pleased too, we feel happy that we are helping others too, we learn something we can share to others. Is it a fruitive action too?
Is it fruitive to want to share knowledge?
No, to become happy, get a feeling of happiness that we share it with others.
Oh, no, don't worry. So you're asking if you get joy out of sharing the message of love of God with others, is that being fruitive? You're sharing because of getting that joy? Yeah. Well, I guess if your intention is to give it just to have a feeling, then that wouldn't be the highest consciousness or mood of service.
No, if it happened after or
well,
while.
If you don't intend to do it just for your own enjoyment, but giving selflessly brings you lots of joy and love in your heart, well that's kind of the result of devotional service. You know, that's that inner happiness. That's that real good loving feeling, right? That's the true state of the soul, which is bliss, knowledge, and eternity. You know, it's a little tiny bit of that. So, I mean, I feel the same way. I know Mother Rytasha was. You know, when she could go on for hours. There was this story. They were in Russia just after the Berlin Wall fall, and she was in Moscow,